What's up, guys? Nolan here, and to start with some quick Tarkov news, since it's been a little while, there is some life in Tarkov, as it looks as though BSG will be doing some weekend events where the bosses will each have their own weekend where they spawn 100% of raids on their respective maps, if they are taking the idea directly from Tarkov.community, which it seems they are. So far, we've only had Reshala on customs, and if they go by bosses and exclude Shadow of Tagilla and Killa, as well as Zerachi, then that leaves us with 9 total, the normal bosses, if you will. So I presume unless they also make some kind of special weekend where they combine them or something like that, we're looking at 8 more weekends of these weekend boss events. So 2 months. In terms of the next wipe, the TLDR there is I don't think we'll be getting one before 1.0 at this point, but that deserves its own video because there's a reason for that. However, today we are discussing a different game. Today we are discussing Gray Zone Warfare, and for a very good reason. We will be playing Gray Zone's new patch 0.3 Winds of War tomorrow and over the weekend as part of an early preview for creators, and if you have had any interest in the game before, I suggest that you check it out. I'll post gameplay here as well as dual stream over on Twitch. I'll be playing with Clean and I believe Operator Drewski. I actually haven't confirmed that with him yet, and I'm assuming there will be other people that file throughout the weekend. Now, what I wanted to talk about today is the fact that some of you are probably already having negative thoughts for the game in general because you've seen previous gameplay, you've got some concerns, I'm sure, and again, that is exactly the purpose of this video because the devs have, in my opinion, done a great job addressing those negative aspects or features. If you were curious about the game or liked it already, well, I got some good news, so listen up. In case you missed it, I was in the Czech Republic last week hanging out with Clean, Operator Drewski, Rilo, and the devs over at Madfinger Games, which are in fact the people making Gray Zone Warfare. During that trip, I was able to play their newest update early, patch 0.3, Winds of War. The reason why I and those other creators were able to play early is because we actually had a big part in the direction of this update. The Gray Zone team kept bumping into us at live events like TwitchCon, where they would ask us what we thought of the game, and we were very honest to their faces. They appreciated that and asked Operator Drewski, Clean, and I to a call where they wanted us to lay out our thoughts directly to the leads and the CEO, Mara, himself, over the course of a few hours. This actually was a pretty significant call. This took a long time. And that was several months ago that this happened, and up until literally right now, I couldn't talk about this. Almost everything, and I do mean almost everything that we asked them to change or address in this update, they did. It turns out, without us knowing at the time, the things that we asked for were very similar, if not exact, to what the team also wanted as well, but they just had to add a later update. Our argument to have this gameplay sooner rather than later convinced the leads to push this to the front. That way, people get a proper, real sense of the gameplay at its core while the devs continue to build the world literally on top of it. So again, why am I confident this update will be great? Because I've played it already and had a big hand in the direction, along with Clean and Drewski. The most important thing to remember here is the reality of the stage of development. This patch won't fix everything. It can't. This will be far from a finished product, but what we, and of course the devs, wanted for it was a baseline appreciation for the core gameplay, which is in its purest form a first-person shooter. Anyone who plays a significant amount of this game should know what the gunplay and movement in PvE and PvP really feels like, so when the team continues to build the world on top of it, you know what you're getting into at its core. You know whether you truly like the game or not because you can imagine the gameplay beyond what you've already experienced in that FPS aspect. The exact same setup happened with Escape from Tarkov, where we knew what the core gameplay consisted of just by having it initially on factory, on customs, then on woods, and so on, so forth. We had that core gameplay, they just added more on top of it. BSG gave us more places to go, new things to shoot, and new enemies to shoot at. Winds of War, I guarantee, will set that up for Gray Zone, and here is why. The major gameplay shift that I argued for in particular was the elevation of PvP. My point was that the sense of loss as well as risk reward is one of, if not the most important aspect to quote-unquote extraction shooters, and the ones that failed, I feel failed strongest in that area. It's why you keep playing. The genuine, real risk of having players around heightens your sense of risk, and the new PvP conflict zones generate that for every single encounter with other players or cops. If you just happen to shoot past an enemy player, the entire server knows it and will get rewarded for hunting you down within that zone if they are an opposing faction. There's also an entire other split section of the game dedicated to strictly PvE if that's what you're looking for. So why not pump up the PvP and get a bit of free gameplay out of it? And what I mean by that is every player interaction is gameplay the developers didn't need to code. Whether it be friendly or not, people provide the content and the fun, you just need to give them a place to play it in. Gray Zone was too big before, and now it's giving the players hints of where to go if that is something that they specifically want. The PvP aspect of the game has always been very strong. It was never flawless, and it still has a long way to go, but the foundation of the PvP I knew was strong from the very beginning, and unfortunately very few people got to see that because of the artificial circumstances. Before full release, they had a ton of creators, mostly Escape from Tarkov veterans, playing on the same server where we specifically pushed the PvP because, well, the way we did that was we specifically went back to areas where we were just killed in, or we knew our friends were just killed in for the content. After release, the threat of players died down significantly unless you, again, artificially went out of your way to set something up. Now, it wasn't completely gone. Of course, you could still run into players, but it just wasn't the same. It wasn't something that happened very often. You got very complacent very quickly. It almost seemed like you would be lucky if you ran into another player. Unless, again, you did something very specifically. I wanted people to feel what we felt in that creator test. I wanted people who want PvP to have a place to go, especially where the PvE is so straightforward. You literally get a 6-digit grid of where to go for your task, and every major POI is clearly marked and open for business. It felt very weird not having that for PvP, especially when it was so interesting. Not to mention, again, there's an entire section of the game that is PvE locked, so if you don't want to fight players, you do not have to. Their solution on top of the PvP conflict zones was the COP system. There are now dozens of capturable points around the map of which you can choose to spawn, and you will have full access to your inventory. You will not need to take the chopper back to the fob anymore. You will just need to own a cop nearby. But there's a kicker. The other factions will want the same. So these are persistent respawn and resupply points in walking distance of every major point on the map that you can fight over to control or deny the enemy factions, and they get special bonuses you'll learn more about another day. This is a good point to thank MFG for allowing me to talk about this, because I'm actually a little bit ahead of the embargo by this video, but I thought that these were important topics to get you guys prepared for tomorrow. So I can't talk about everything just yet. Come by the stream or stay tuned for more videos if you guys are interested in more. Now, if you caught the stream from the other day, the one that we did in the actual MFG offices, which I actually have been playing a bit of in the background here, you would have seen some troubling gameplay. There was definitely some things that stuck out as a bit negative. I wanted to make sure I addressed that because it's not realistic, and it was actually a byproduct of the event itself. What you saw was all players from all factions fighting over a single cop at the same time. That will never happen organically, ever. Sure, it can happen, but it's just not. It's just people aren't going to do that unless it's something artificial, which this was. At most, you would see a couple of squads, 8 to 16 people at the absolute most, because there just won't be that many coordinated people on a public server. So the chaos of not seeing whether it was a teammate or not, or everybody talking over each other and running around like chickens with their heads cut off because there were so many people is just not realistic. That was purely because we artificially filled the server with devs and content creators and then pushed all of them into a pinpoint selection of very specific locations on the map. The other thing that I wanted to address is LZ camping. Guys, I've played a dozen or so hours of this update, and I've only used the helicopters when I first joined the server. The helicopters and the LZ camping are just not going to be a big issue. The name of the game now is Cops. Own those, spawn at the closest, and get your gear from there or buy what you need. Again, because we artificially rushed the entire server to a specific cop, it turned into chaos, and the LZ camping definitely was an issue, but it was more than it realistically should. If there was more time, the people dying on choppers would have gone to a further LZ and walked further, but time was limited for the event. Now, will it still happen? Yes, and the devs are thinking over other ways to mitigate it, but it will be limited to luck and unluck because someone would have needed to have just left or be waiting for a chopper at an LZ in order to get effective fire on you, and as I just mentioned, you very, very rarely actually use the helicopters now. You also have the option to move from cop to cop, which I highly suggest that you do. The person waiting by an LZ just to see if somebody lands there is going to be waiting a very long time and will eventually realize it's just not worth it because the people there waiting for are probably using the cops and hoofing it instead of riding up to the POI on a dinner bell. We've all played Armor Forger or King of the Hill, or at least I assume most of us have, where we should know that chopper inserts are fast but messy, so pick your insert wisely or find a way in on the ground, and we have that now with the cops. Join a server, take the helicopter to the closest cop, and try to own the other ones around it. Try and own as many as possible, and if the enemies are trying to take yours, go stop them. If you are not interested in the PvP, then go play on a PvE server, and also if you are in that instance just really trying to do some PvE things on a PvP server, then you still have the LZs. Just be careful which one you pick. And if it's a specifically hot LZ, if you see a lot of PvP conflict zones near the LZ that you want to take, maybe don't. Maybe don't. Because there's players there. Maybe don't do that one. Pick another one. A great example here of how quickly the devs are moving on feedback is they're already addressing our biggest critique from the test that we had last week with the mortar alerts.
Oh my god, look at that.
Oh my god. Our poor ears.
Oh no, it's gonna do every
And
single
I
one,
punched
isn't
the
it?
radio to death.
You're walking into danger.
Oh my god, we get it.
Hey Nolan, did you know all units incoming HE?
What?
Seconds.
What?
Did you know?
The build we play on now will only alert you if you are in range of the mortar being fired. So if you are at risk of being hit by the mortar, you will get an alert, and that's it. Something simple, but important. These are just a couple of the significant changes coming to the game in 0.3, so come by the stream tomorrow and ask to check it out for yourself if you are interested. Like I said before, I'm going to be spotting up with At Least Clean, and I believe Drewski, not certain on the other ones yet, but again, At Least Clean, and we'll be putting up the update through its paces, or we'll be putting the update through its paces in an early access build, like what we did before with the other creators, which was a lot of fun. So we'll see how this one goes. The trip to the Czech Republic was great, and I share some stories as well as pictures over there on my second channel, the Autistic Armchair General, where I have a podcast and cover RTS games like Broken Arrow. So if you're interested in those games or hearing about the trip, go check that out. But that's going to do it for today, guys. To support the channels, click all the buttons on the screen or come by a stream, especially tomorrow. Let me know what you think below. Otherwise, thank you very much for watching. I hope you have a nice day. See you guys.